In this episode, we're going to talk about how to weed out unqualified buyers who tie up your property, waste your time, and can never close in the first place. Let's go! There is nothing more frustrating than when a seller or their inexperienced broker go to contract with the wrong buyer from the get-go who was never qualified in the first place. It blows my mind how little research many sellers and their brokers do on the buyer they're about to marry for the next 90 days heading to closing. As a multifamily broker for over 20 years, I've learned to sniff out pretenders. Pretenders usually turn in juvenile letter of intents that are missing all kinds of pertinent information to create a contract from. Pretenders usually turn in offers that are 30% below ask price. These buyers usually just turn in an offer through email and are always reluctant to even get on the phone with you. They are usually reluctant to meet with you or tour the property until they've got the property secured by a contract. Pretenders usually offer really low deposit money, and typically they have long due diligence and long closing periods. As a seller or listing broker, if you don't already know the buyer and their qualifications before going to contract, here are several tips that are bare minimum for you to enact before going to contract with this person. Number one, you're going to have them present to you with the offer a list of addresses of the actual real estate investments they own. You are then going to verify via public records that they actually own those assets. Number two, they're going to provide to you a proof of funds. This can be screenshots of their bank accounts with their names on them. You don't have to have account numbers showing. They can cross through that. I would also get a quick letter or email from a lender they've used in the past, backing them and saying that they do have the ability to close on a property of this price and this type. If they've done deals before, then they have relationships with lenders, and those lenders, at least one of them, should be able to put together a letter like that pretty quickly, or at least an email. Number three, do not allow the buyer to assign the contract without them remaining liable under the contract. There are many buyers who will tie up a piece of property and while under contract try to assign it to someone else who you don't know and who may also not have the ability to close. Many purchase and sale agreements have three choices. You can either allow them to assign it, period, no questions asked. Number two, you can allow no assignments whatsoever. Or number three, you can allow them to assign it as long as they remain liable under the contract. I'm suggesting you allow for the latter one because that allows a buyer to assign the contract to a new entity or LLC, if that's what they choose, that they will be the principal of. Many investors like to put real estate in a single asset entity to provide more liability coverage for themselves. Tip number four, I would make sure that deposit money is somewhere between 5 and 10% of the purchase price minimum. The easiest way for a buyer to show strength in a contract is their deposit money. On just about any deal you do these days, you're going to have to put down at least 10% today anyway, and most deals are between 20 and 35%. So asking for a buyer to put down at least 5% of the sale price is a bare minimum. And understand, if you get any flack about 5% down, be cautious. Now, if it's a $50 million contract price, do you need to put down at least $2.5 million or 5%? No, but I'd want down at least $1 million, $1.5 million or something that size. The key is you want it to be enough where that person ain't walking away after due diligence heading into closing. And the number 5 tip to weeding out unqualified buyers is to check references. Now, this isn't necessarily a required minimum, but checking someone's references, i.e. brokers they've done business with, or sellers they've bought from, would be ideal. If the buyer has acted like they've transacted lots of deals, there should be at minimum a broker that I can call and speak to who can speak with experience of having transacted with that person in a positive manner. Now listen, does every buyer have to have every one of those qualifications? No. I know that there are new investors who are truly trying to get a start. So if they can't produce a list of addresses that they own, I get that. But if that same investor cannot provide a proof of funds, they put down a tiny deposit, and they want the ability to just assign the contract without being liable on it, To those investors who are currently violating several of these qualification methods, you have to be careful. Real estate is a super small business. Word travels very fast between brokers and investors and appraisers and all those who are involved in this business, especially the multifamily business. And it isn't long before you develop a reputation as someone who just ties up properties without having the ability to close. And if you carry on like that for too long, even when someday you do have the ability to close and do meet these qualifications, it's really hard to overcome that reputation you've built about yourself. I hope this video brought you some value. And if it did, please give me a like down below. Make sure you subscribe and of course hit that notification bell so you're made aware of my videos each week. See you guys in the next one.